Well, we're back to another episode on the Fury 3, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the car, how it was built, where it was sold, how people that owned it along its trail, and basically everything from this came from previous owners like Dave, who the guy he bought it from, who had it for 30 years, give or take. And this shadow right here, which you can barely see a shadow right there. Well, I was able to get it at a perfect angle with some light against it to be able to read the dealership sticker that was put on here from back in the day. Well, right there you can kind of see the rectangular shadow. And me too. And the exhaust, which that was a pain in the ass. So we're going to take a deep dive into this today. And this is kind of the intro for everything. And like all Mopars, everything begins in the beginning. So you got to get underneath the hood and take a look at a thing called a fender tag. And there she sits. So I'm going to break down in this video everything that's on this fender tag. And there's some interesting things on this fender tag that aren't on any other Fury fender tag. Like, well, that may be possible. The Y16 might be possible to be on another Fury, which is Sales Bank. And this one here is the final top. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag on that one just yet. So we're going to talk about that. And the tail end of this video, we're going to take a look at this thing because it's different than any other motor I've come across in 50 years of building engines professionally. Never seen a 318 like this one. So much less other people have made the same comment. And I went right to the top with people that I know that are in the industry that know their Mopars, and everybody's scratching their head on this one. So I'll save that for the end. So that's where we're going to be in the end. So what we're going to do now is we're going to break down every single code on this in the next section of this, and talk a little bit about what all these codes are and what they mean, and we're going to kind of go from there with everything. So that's the plan, and so come along for the ride and find out who Furyosa really is and where she came from and who owned her, and up to me owning it today. Many have asked the question is if I was going to sell this car. Well, no, in a nutshell. My son's even taken somewhat of a like to it. I kind of like it. It drives, does things exactly what I need it to do for the shop. And until something else comes along that I love a whole lot more, it's pretty much just going to be our daily driver for the shop. We're going to go to the paint store, buy paint. We're going to go to the gas station and buy gas for tractors. We're going to basically use it for things like that. No, I am not putting a trailer hitch on it. I was going to, but I'm not now. It doesn't need to pull anything other than its own weight. So just go out, and I'm going to attend a few car shows and do some patina things. I will be fixing the rust and doing some lacquer blend-ins like what was done in the past, so I can stay with the whole patina thing. I'm not planning on painting this thing anytime soon. I will be doing something with the top, but that's going to come later in another video. There's no fix for the top. It's pretty screwed. So, yeah, I don't know if you could see this, but the old feller thought that if it had a crack up there, he should wipe some silicone on it so it didn't leak. Really great thinking. So, yeah, well, people did what they did. And this whole, piece of trim is slathered with silicone. I mean, slathered all the way up and around, and the back window the same way. Well, it don't leak. Not that I'm aware of anyway. So like I said, basics, fender tag. Now, also, Dave did tell me as well that he's had the whole interior out of this and he never found a build sheet. Well, I might know where that is. So we'll wait and see on that. But, you know, rodents, decay, things like that. So we're going to just dive into that a whole lot later. But I just wanted to get a starting point for what's going to go on here. And also at the tail end of the video, well, we'll see how long this gets. I don't want this to be too long. I'm going to keep this under 20-30 minutes, something like that. So I better shut up. We'll see you in a minute. So where we last left off was the fender tag, and in some of these numbers here, they need a lot of explaining. So I'm actually going to go after that and try to get after it here. I noticed one thing, it kind of decodes everything by line backwards. So, like the bottom line here, it starts out with F44, which is a rough wiring location for the dome light, and which I'm not sure why that is special, but that's one thing in there. So, we're actually going to be going from the bottom line all the way up to the top on the breakdown. So, D31, let's see. All right, so D31, we'll be starting with, D31, I'm going to get my page straight here, is light duty 904 automatic transmission torque flight. Okay? And I can certainly vouch for the light duty part of that. PM29 is Plymouth Fury, medium grade, and 29 two-door sports hardtop. The F9D is 318, 230 horse, two-barrel, eight-cylinder. The 9 stands for 1969, and D was built in the Belvidere, Illinois plant, which is going to become important later. And then the sequential number. F8, well, unknown at this time, but that's ivy green metallic, which you guys have seen plenty of green. And oh my God, way too much green. Okay, so M1G is medium. These are grade, style, and color, okay? This has to do with the interior seating and stuff. So it's a medium grade cloth and vinyl bench, which is covered over because it's in pretty crappy shape, but I'm going to get the original seat covers from Legendary eventually, and when I get $1,500 I don't know what to do with, and order that stuff in. F8 is the upper door frame color, so it's the same as that one. Okay, 505 is the date that it was actually built. So in other words, May 5th, 1969. So if you think about the cars that were being built, a majority of these were built, you know, prior in 68 actually, to be sold in September of 69, you know, when they went to the dealer. So this is not a super late build date, but it's a kind of a summer spring type date, okay, which is going to become important later. Okay, then they got the order number, which is, if I wish I had more information on that, but I do not. And then A01 is the roof type and or color, and it was called a light package. All right, so I had to really dig into this. Okay, so this is the lighting package for, actually, I believe, the dome light. Now here's where things get interesting because of the build date. This is an A16, which is a Fury 3 Spring Special. So the car was considered a Spring Special because of the time it was built, which is obviously in May, which is in the spring. Then A48 is a dress-up package, which is the front and actually front and rear bumper guards. Okay. G11 tinted glass on all areas. Um, Single air with heater, this air conditioned car with a heater. Um, L31 is the hood, or actually fender mounted turn signals. M33, which I made a mistake here and I had to change that, so it's M33, is body side moldings. M43 is a grill surround molding, which is the piece that goes across the front of the hood, to be honest. And and then there's chrome on the fenders, I believe, as well. So like a Fury 1 probably wouldn't have that. Music Master AM radio R11. Well, ain't that funky. But here's where things get really weird, okay? Now, I ran into one guy that said this is just a gold top. Well, no, I ran into a couple different guys that straightened this out, but it has a full vinyl top, green, gold and green floral top. And Y16 is a sales bank car. Now, let me explain. A sales bank car is something that was a car that was engineered by the guys on the line and wanted to build something different. Okay, so it's a spring special and it's a sales bank car, so the guys designed it on the line, and the full vinyl top being green and gold floral makes this car most likely a one of one, because no one's even heard of such a thing, because in 1969 the only car that was offered by Plymouth with a green and gold floral top was the Barracuda. So that makes this car bizarre. Okay. There's a couple other things that make this car bizarre too, and I'm going to talk about the big W on the intake, which I'll probably plop a picture in here after I get done talking about this stuff of that. And no one has been able to tell me, including the masters in the industry that know this stuff and have the records and the documents, they can't tell me what the hell that means. One was suggested that it was a, replacement motor from Chrysler. Well, it's not, because it's got its numbers matching. So the VIN number stamped into the pan rail, on the block. So that takes that out. The second thing was maybe Wyand was making intakes for Chrysler. Well, I've already had that dispelled too, because Chrysler cast all their own stuff. So that takes that out. So no historian, and I've only found one of the guy that said he had one like this, and I've been building motors for 50 years and I've never found one. So that tends to be somewhat interesting. So designed by the guys on the line, green and gold floral top. Now, I'm going to also make a comment about when I was talking to Dave about the car and the guy he bought the car from, that the gator top was replaced because the top was getting bad, and the guy didn't like the top anyway because it was fruity. Now, I didn't understand what that really meant, but it was a really old guy. I think Dave said the guy was in his 80s or something when Dave bought the car, and that's probably 9 years ago now. So, and he bought the car from somebody in Wyckoff, Minnesota. So let's just roll back the clock. And so this is where it was born. This is talking about where this car was born, which was Belvidere, Illinois. It was designed by the guys on the line. It was a one-off thing. It was a spring special. And it was just, everything about the car is bizarre. The last code here is the 26, which happens to be the 26-inch radiator. So that breaks down the fender tag, so you can go through all these lines and figure all this stuff out. Now, this is a reputable site. Stock Mopar is a reputable site, so I've used them before, and everything that they break things down is spot on. Now, I did have one gentleman who I'm really good friends with, um, Tom at Rocket Restorations, said that that code for the top is just a gold. Well, I also talked to Dave Weiss about that, and he said, well, no, that's not true. That was the code for the floral top. So that's kind of been dispelled, and it's also dispelled by the fact of the old guy who owned it before Dave said that he didn't like the fruity top, and wanted to replace it. So he replaced the top, and obviously it's shot and needs to be replaced. But when I restore the car, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So here's the breakdown of the codes on this car and telling a little bit about its history. And I'm going to wrap this up because I'm going to go into the second part of this, which gets super interesting. Pasta. Homemade spaghetti. Yum. Okay, we're back to discuss. After it left the Belvedere plant, it was sent to Krause Motors. Now, I'm going to do some explaining here. So, this is the Dakota Chrysler Center, which is legitimately Krause Motors, and I'll explain how all that came to pass and the origins of it. And so, in the bumper, there was a sticker, and I was able to make out Highway 13 West, and I believe it's called Wapitan, and I'm probably butchered that, but North Dakota. Okay, so the car left Belvedere and it went to a top dealer, which was, North Dakota. So the car went up to North Dakota. Let's see if they can sell it. Well, in California, I'm pretty sure you could sell a floral top Fury, but to put a floral top Fury in the showroom of Krause Motors probably sent every redneck into an absolute tizzy. So let's talk a little bit about Dakota Chrysler and where that became, or how its origins. So in 1954, the beginning guy was Oscar Krause. Then Oscar Krause ran this was a family-owned Chrysler dealership until 2001. Now, Oscar's son, which was Harmon Krause, he's 89 years old now, and still doing well from what his grandson tells me, which is Steve Krause, who still works at this dealership today. And I had a lovely conversation with him about this, and he was going to go talk to his dad about if he remembers the car, because I said it's too weird not to remember. Well, as folklore goes, it was sold to a couple, and the guy bought it for his wife, roughly, and so it was sold to a couple, and it was a car for his wife to have, and so that's what I understand that to be. Now, I have not been able to prove that because I don't know those people. I don't even know if they're alive anymore. I mean, you got to remember, this is 1969, right? So a lot of people were, probably in their 20s. Well, I'm 65, so that would be at least, 85. They would be at least 85 years of age in this group if they're in their 20s. Well, if they're even older than that, they may not even be alive today. So it's pretty difficult to trace the first buyer, But the second buyer was the gentleman that bought this car in Wyckoff, Minnesota. And he owned the car for some 20 odd years, the way I understand the story to be from Dave, that he owned the car for a very, very long time. And how Dave came about getting it, I'm not really too sure. I suppose he just stumbled into it somewhere along his trails, because Dave is an amazing guy, and he worked at Adamson Motors in Rochester as a parts man, and now he's celebrating his 37th year there, and he wants to retire and go work on his hot rods. because he's got a bunch of cool cars. Um, he didn't show anybody any of his stuff. If you see his stuff, it's because he's driving it somewhere. He's meticulous about everything he does, and like I said, he's a good mechanic and been my parts guy at the Chrysler dealership for 37 freaking years. So he and I go back. I was given a super deal on this car by him because we have a long standing friendship, and he needed money to fix his 70 Challenger after he just finished restoring, excuse me, 71 Challenger, after he just finished restoring it, and then went for his first joyride, and it turned into a deer hunting expedition, which literally wiped out the front end of the car. Hood, grill, bumper, right fender, right door. I mean, it just trashed the whole front end of the car. I have pictures, but I don't know if I'm gonna. I might pop a picture in here just for fun, so you can actually see the devastation of what a doe did to his beautiful blue 71 big block Challenger. It's heartbreaking. So he wanted to use the money from this car to fund some of the final finishing repairs and paint work that needs to be done to finish his car. So he gave me a smoking deal. And I'm grateful to Dave for that because I absolutely love this freaking car. Um, and so does everybody that sees it, by the way. So, getting back to the story of the Krause family business. So, again, in 1954, Oscar Krause started this car dealership. His son, Harmon Krause, worked there throughout his career, and then Harmon sold it, offered it to Steve. Steve is 63, probably 64 now, but um, offered it to Steve, and Steve said, nah, I just as soon work here. I don't really want to own it. So it was sold to a conglomerate of folks, I'm led to believe, that that took over the dealership. Now the dealership is still in place today, as I've said, and which is super cool that I was able to track this down. Oh, one other thing I asked Steve when I had him on the phone was, any chance that you guys would have the old records? And he said that he didn't believe that any of those old records existed anymore, from in the 60s or whatever. So that was really kind of a bummer because that would have been, I would have been able to get, all the dealer-based paperwork, which Tom at Rocket Restorations has said that that stuff is freaking gold. And I tend to agree with Tom on that. It's just neat stuff. But the fact that I'm able to have a conversation, with Steve about the history of the Chrysler dealership, as well as talking about, the car itself. And of course, Steve may not remember that particular car because he was, in 69, he wasn't working there yet because he was too young. But when the car was actually sold, but it was sold by his dad, Harmon. So, just some really bizarre stuff. I can only imagine what people thought being North Dakota, the land of rednecks, and seeing a floral top on a car would have just blown people's minds, I mean, because this isn't California where this type of car would have had pretty big reviews. I don't know that they ever made another one like this car, but, I mean, it's quite possible. So I'm going to be doing a deeper dive when I go into doing some engine work on the very cool W on the intake manifold. The intake manifold casting numbers are just, they're exactly what they should be. Okay. And this is the 6th revision of that particular casting number. So that casting number was used for a majority of years. Okay. So I'll explain all that later on. But again, a Fury 3 with a floral top. I mean, yeah, that's just absolutely mind-blowing. So there's kind of the general history of where this car was born in the Belvedere plant, the dealer it went to originally, the couple that bought the car. The car was basically traded in at a little teeny car dealer, corner car dealer in Wyckoff, Minnesota. It was purchased by a gentleman in Wyckoff, Minnesota. He had it for countless years, 20 plus. Then it came into Dave's hands, and of course, now it's in mine, and it is archived. I don't know that we're ever going to sell this car. My son has actually taken a liking to it too, and I told him this is something we're just going to add to our list of cars. I only had 4 originally that I was doing the forever, keep it forever, but now that's grown to 6, which we're not even talking about my latest purchase and bad choices is pretty much where I'm at. Jamie from Dead Dodge Garage and I've had a kind of an ongoing thing of how to make bad choices. So, long story short, I hope you enjoyed finding out the history of the car. There's more to talk about as I go do some engine work, because that's going to be next in this. I'm going to put this in with a video because there's some upgrades that I'm going to do, and I don't want to get this too yappy, but it's all good information. So from start to where it is today, this car's had a really interesting life. So let's go take a peek under the hood. So I have one more thing I want to touch base on this car, and its eventual weirdness. And by the way, that rusty piece right there, that never had paint on it from the factory, otherwise it would look like that. And I don't know why they didn't paint this part, but that's just really stupid. So don't be a bit surprised if you don't see that. The next time you see that, it's been acid dipped and black, including that crustified spring. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. So, yeah, I'll take all this apart at some point. Maybe I'll do a video on that too. I'm not sure. But there's one last thing I'm going to share about this car. And take the air filter off here. Try to anyway. And remove this component if it will let me. Okay, it's not going to let me today, so we'll just get him out of the way. Okay, so we have a Carter BBD, 2-barrel, and your basic bone stock 318, or is it? Well, it doesn't sound bone stock, but as you can see underneath the carburetor here and the intake manifold, let's see if I can get some extra light in here on this. There is a W cast into the intake manifold. Wow, does this light ever freak out my phone? Okay, so now you can see that better. Okay, there's a cast W into this intake manifold, and I've only ran across one other guy that says he has one like this, and I've been building engines for 50 years, and we did a ton of 318s and trucks and cars, and I've had my hands all over small block stuff like forever, big blocks too, but I kind of switched over to mostly big block years ago, but this is just an abnormality. I spoke with Tom at Rocket Restorations about it, and he was no clue. And if you stumped him, you're doing something, because that man is a wealth of knowledge. Secondly is I contacted Dave Weiss, sent him pictures. I've known Dave for some time, and sent him photos, and he said that the only thing he came up with was maybe Chrysler was having Wyan cast some intakes. Well, that got dispelled by half a dozen people, because Chrysler had their own casting company and they did all their own castings. So no one can tell me what that stands for. Okay, I ran the casting numbers on the back of the intake, which are back here. And this is the 6th revision. These are very standard casting numbers, nothing odd about any of that. So I don't know what to tell you. It's just weird. Maybe it stands for weird. I don't know. So I'm not too sure what the story is, but that makes this car kind of a one of a kind as well. You know, I mean, not only that, but just the fact that that it had the floral top. You know, I mean, sales bank car. Okay, so I get it. You know, let's build something off the line here with a bunch of parts laying around and see if people like it. And if they like it, we'll build more. That makes perfect sense. So, where did this motor come from? What does it mean? Is there anything odd about the internals of this motor? Is it just the intake manifold? You know, I don't know. I mean, I haven't pulled the valve covers and chased down head casting numbers, and stuff like that. I don't know what to tell you. Neither does anyone else. So there's that. Last thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to be putting in as many of you know who are dyed-in-the-wool Mopar guys, that back here, right there, actually, is the oil sending unit. Now, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing here, and I probably am not going to do a video on it. I may or may not, but I got so many other things to do videos on coming up here that it's really irrelevant. But I'm going to be removing that, but I'm going to keep it. So I know that doesn't make much sense. You're going to remove it, but you're going to keep it. Well, I'm removing it to put in a auxiliary oil pressure gauge. So how I've been doing this for years and is I make this part. I shut my light off here. Oh, wrong way. There we go. My son bought me that really nice light too. That thing from Menards of all places. Anyway, what I do is I make this up ahead of time, and this is basically hardware store stuff. It's 1.5 inch nipple with a T on it, and so I usually point them towards the firewall like this, and I also take and Vic's calling me. Well, I have to get back to him. Anyway, I put the sending unit in this one because it's close to the distributor. And then I put the plastic line or metal line, depending on what I'm using at the time, out of this one. That way I can keep the idiot light in the dash from being shining on me all the time. And because I really hate that. And so I can put this in there, and then I can put this here. Now I use brass because if for whatever reason you ever snap one of these off, brass is a hell of a lot easier to get out of there than cast pipe. Plus cast pipe looks like shit. Just saying. There used to be fittings that were different than this that you could get that was a T that didn't look like this, but this is what they make today. So that's fine. That's totally fine. Nobody's really going to see it because it's down and behind the distributor. But so at the back of the block, let's say your block is like this, your engine's like this fits in the back. This will be at an angle like this away from the distributor. So this goes here towards the paralleling the firewall. And then this, it's all below the distributor, by the way, and just allowing for clearance. And then this one comes up and goes straight up. Now, the reason that I do it this way, simply put, is because you have the vacuum advance right there, and I like additional room for that. So, like I said, it's not a part of this segment, but I just wanted to show that little hack that I do. I doubt it's going to ever end up in a video because I have so many other fish to fry on this thing. That I want to really focus on. But the main focus of this video has been from the get-go is what is the car? Where was it built? How was it built? We don't know why it was built, but well, kind of do, to see if somebody had further interest in it. And by the way, that is the slimiest carburetor I've ever seen. The rest of the motor is relatively clean. Why is the the carb so slimy? Now I could do a cheat and just slather it up with a whole bunch of gum out and carb cleaner and make it pretty, or I could take it off and go through it. I'm probably not that guy. you know, to just do a cheesy cleanup job on it. God. So anyway, that's got to get cleaned up. I got to get that in there, and it's got some other things. But again, focus on the car is we've got the patina where we want the patina. We've got it all waxed up. It's basically being used now. I've been driving it around. Actually, probably going to take it out some today, but I got a lot of chores to do at the ranch here because it's springtime, and we've been moving dirt and building things and stuff. And it's just, this thing really just catches your eye when you pull up because you just get, it's so patina, you know. So been getting a few comments on her, and I like that. Like I said, the whole thing about the car is where did it come from, how was it built, what options were put into it. Kind of makes this car, I don't know if I'd say one of one, you know. I mean, maybe, I don't know. What do I have to compare it with? Not much, you know. I mean, I guess I could have Dave Weiss do a complete breakdown on the car, but is it really worth it? Do I really care? What did I buy it for? To go drive it and enjoy the hell out of it. And that's exactly what I intend to do. So, the reason for the auxiliary oil pressure gauge is I really want to know what I'm carrying for oil pressure in the bottom end of this thing. You know, where's the longevity of the engine? That's the only reason I brought it up in this whole thing. Oh, and this air conditioning system is all hooked up, and I'm going to talk to Tom at Rocket Restorations about getting my hands on some R12. I have all the gauges to charge it and that sort of thing from yesteryear when I used to do this stuff, but I don't have any R12, so I might have to get some of that contraband stuff and see what can be done here and get some compressor oil in it, you know, just to make sure it's got enough. And I know there's a whole balance of all that you're supposed to do, but nobody's really got any of that equipment anymore. So it just is what it is. Anyway, enough said about this. This is 10 minutes in on this piece. So like and subscribe. You're going to see this car a lot more. You're going to see it on the road. You're going to see it at car shows. You're going to see it. It's going to be used like the red truck was. You know, it's kind of a truck. Can't carry plywood in it, but I never did with the red truck anyway. So I have a big diesel for that sort of foolishness. But again, here we go. So like and subscribe for the channel. I'll try to get you guys some more cool content on the car. But the next car coming in here is going to be a 1973 Dodge Charger, California car, rust-free. I'm not sure how far I'm going to take it, but I've got a 383 I want to build for it, a nice 727 torque flight, and a lot of other goodies. Rally dash, there's a lot of stuff going to happen with that, but the car is for sale as well, so the chances of it getting sold before we even build it here are very good because we're moving some cars. We've got other projects going, and we got to get these cars that are projects that are going to take a lot of time. We got to get rid of that so that we can afford to put more time into the new stuff coming in. So take care, guys. Thanks a lot. By the way, I crested 513 subs, so thank you all very much for watching and subscribing, and I just appreciate you guys to no end. There's been a lot of changes in the shop too, and I was going to do a shop video, but no one cares, so probably not. So anyway, take care. Have a fantastic day.